Cool. So let's talk about, well, my top 5 experiences in the sandbox. So I'm going to share my screen again, and yeah, we'll jump into the top 5. So number 5 for me is Nine Chen's Wonderland. It just looks really cool. It's a social hub, if I remember. It's a multiplayer social hub. And yeah, like there's a lot of cool looking assets. So, this person is doing a lot.
On difficulty of the build was the primary.
I graded on like a lot of things. I graded on how it looks, because that's important. World building. I guess I graded on how much time I spent on it, or playing it, right, or interacting with it. I didn't spend like too much time playing this, but I thought, again, some of the assets, they're really amazing, and so that is worth something. So
yeah, some of these some of them are like, I can't wait to get out of here. The other ones you're like, okay, this is cool. I want to hang out and see what all the NFTs that are there and those kind of things. So I get that.
Yeah, and like especially because if it's a social hub, when it's multiplayer, you can't do much. So I don't know. I might be wrong. This might actually look like a single player experience, because I haven't seen anyone nearby. So I think this is single player.
Decked out gear though. I like
but yeah, so like this is a really cool asset that it's like this complete set. And yeah, so that thing over there.
I have that sword. I know. Okay. Yeah, I know that outfit.
Yeah. So let me. Well. Yeah. Okay. So this looks like it's a single player experience, but yeah. So this was my number 5. Let's see.
What's the name of it again?
Nine Chen's Wonderland. All right, so that was number 4. Let's see. Okay, so next one, I like Lulu Lance. So this is for sure a multiplayer experience.
Are these in order, by the way? Are these number 5 and then number 4?
Yep, this is number 4. This is yeah. So again, like this was really cool because, so first of all, we saw like when I first played and I noticed like the NFTs on the walls, I was like, that looks kind of odd. And instantly I realized they were running ads, but I didn't know how they were doing it. And so if you came to this experience another day, you'll see the images change. But of course, like if they're NFT, you can't change them. So that's how I knew they were running ads. It was very innovative on their part to run ads, because again, like if you're going to get 20,000 people coming into your experience, you're showing a lot of impressions, and someone is going to want to buy that.
Were you able to click on the NFTs or the ads, or is it just more of a billboard?
No, it was more of a billboard, and you can tell they were ads because some of them had QR codes.
That's one of the things that's going to be interesting in the. I definitely think the billboard ad stuff is going to be a big player, but it's like, how are these QR codes going to? Because there's a big thing with crypto, and again, if you play the ledger.
Yeah, so you see that?
Kind of know it's security. What is it?
I don't know if you saw that. So right there, right? Like very obvious. That's an ad.
Yeah,
that billboard right there.
So I'm curious to see how these QR codes are going to play out. What Sandbox will allow, because you can imagine if you're not controlling the ads, like the actual person's, like let's say you have the skeleton of the or the frame for the ad, but you're allowing anyone to upload an ad. That's definitely a security concern, because you can put any QR code and you would drain someone's wallet potentially.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to regulate that, because I agree, it's billboard ads is something you'd want to tap into for sure. But also, how do you keep it secure? Like, how do you prevent bad players?
Yep. So, yep, that was number 4. And let's go through number 3. Okay. All right. So this is Sugo's split personality single player experience. I finished this completely. So it was one of the ones where it kept me engaged. And, like we're both gamers, right? So we know if a game, gets us to play 20, 30 minutes, it's pretty good. So what I like about this is it's a well-written story. You, at the end, have a pretty good understanding of who Sugo is, or not maybe good understanding, but you know something about him. And so that's really cool. And it's different gameplay combined. So there's almost like a trivia game. There's a little bit of melee fighting. And there's a little bit of parkour. So that's really cool. Like you're not doing all parkour like for 20, 30 minutes. Like I would like not like that. So here's the first part, which is just parkour and like jumping around, which is fine, right? If it's like 5, 10 minutes.
Yeah, and if you work in the parkour with like a problem solving component, that helps too.
Yeah. So what I really like about it, I'm trying to get to the end of this first part is, once you get to the end of this part, you like jump to the next set of puzzles immediately without having to scroll the map. Like that's really annoying when you have to do that. So here you'll see once he talks to Sugo, then you jump to the next area in the next puzzle.
How big is this parcel?
It's a 1x1.
1x1?
Yeah, it did a lot. See, right there. So you notice I just jumped. So like you don't have to like go find the next quest. A lot of games did that in alpha season, and I'm just like, oh man, I cannot. Like I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend like 2-3 minutes just walking around the map trying to find the next quest. So this second part here is trivia. So you kind of go around and talking to characters. They'll give you some facts about Sugo, and then you come back to Sugo and you answer the questions. Like pretty simple. But it's different, and that's what I like about it.
And isn't he? He's a musician, right?
Yep. So yeah, you know something about him. You know what kind of cars he likes. It's pretty cool. So here again. So after you finish this, you jump to the next part. And so this is something about his childhood. And so I think, if I remember right, like he might have been bullied. And so you're kind of fighting, something. And so I guess it's just a metaphor for, people that bully him or something.
Which ties into the storytelling stuff
Yeah. And so I like that the enemies, they're dark and they're shadows. So it's implying something, right?
Do you know the team who made this by chance?
I don't. And then I like this last part here. So you're trying to fix his car in the real version, in real life in the game, as opposed to the other parts. They're like memories of him. So you fix his car. You're gonna see. I like this mechanic right here a lot. Boom, right? That's really cool.
Yeah, I've seen that used a few times where like you find parts and like it's broken down. You find a part, it'll swap the asset to make it the next almost fixed, and then you continue to fix it. Which I like that that mechanic as well.
Yeah, so there are like they didn't do anything new. They just used the mechanics really well, and that's what I like a lot about these games is. You can create really good experiences in the sandbox like we did it, right? We didn't do anything out of the box or Really, we didn't do anything out of the norm. Really, we did everything out of the box. And their game is one of the ones that did really well, I think. And it's a fun game. It's, obviously it's not as long, right? Because that person completed in 7 minutes. But I think they're probably going to have a higher percent of people that complete that game than, like Ledgerverse. That's my opinion.
Yeah, they look polished.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's very polished. All right. Next one. Oh, it looks like I don't have this one. Oh, here it is. All right. So number 2 is The Walking Dead. This is the single player experience. So I love this because it's extremely on brand. There's no fighting whatsoever. And you're mostly trying to avoid the walkers, which is exactly what the IP is about. You never want to go up against walkers head to head. And this game, the story does it perfectly. So I think the creator who did this was the winner in the Walking Dead Game Jam because the puzzles, they're almost identical. And yeah, it's just awesome. The dialogue is really good.
The Game Jam, the Walking Dead themed Game Jam is what you're talking about.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So the story here, it's cool. Is because, you're kind of working with.
Real quick on that, the Game Jams are what? They're competitions that people can enter, and you win prizes. That's the whole concept of a Game Jam. And this was probably one of the top.
This was, the Walking Dead one had the most prizes. I remember the top winner was getting 250,000 sand or something ridiculous.
And that was when sand was quite a bit, wasn't it? I mean, sand was still $1.
So the walking, it was a little bit. I think it was right around a couple of dollars, but it was a lot. I remember. This was before sand went to $8. This was before that. So, yeah. So the story here is you're kind of getting supplies, but you're helping this character Cassie. And so you're carrying walkie-talkies. And so that's very important in the story because you kind of get help from a narrator, but it makes sense because you're doing it through a walkie-talkie. Right? It's very important because then you can create a story. You can tie the story in much better. So this is one of the really nice mechanics I found in this game, which is, again, you're not going directly against the walkers, but you're tricking them to walk into traps. Of course, the traps can hurt you too. So the walkers, they're slow, which is exactly what the game is about. And yeah, you're just trying to kind of run. I also like that there is very limited health potions. They had one. I would have preferred that there would be none, right? Because you really can't heal in The Walking Dead. Once you get bit, you're done. So there's this one part I really like, which was you're getting to the rooftop, and then if you stand on a certain spot, the walkers get shot at, and it's because that the character Cassie, she's in a separate building, so she could see everything, and she has a rifle. Again, it's very on brand because you kind of expect that in the Walking Dead IP. So
I would say spoilers on this, but luckily there's no more. You can't play this anymore. So
exactly. So I thought the game went a little too long. I think that's why I didn't put it as number 1. I think had this been, maybe 25% shorter, I think it would have been great.
What dragged on about it? Do you remember?
I just felt the same, it was the same puzzles over and over, but you're in a different setting, and that just became kind of redundant.
Yeah,
so I think repetitive. This is, repetitive. And I remember this was the part where I kind of stopped playing.
Got it.
So I didn't finish this game, the experience.
It looks good though.
So Yeah, surprisingly, there's very little asset development in this game. I looked, and there's just not that many. Because like the world of Walking Dead is not colorful, it's not glamorous, it's very like dark, right? So you kind of expect everything to look kind of ugly. All right, so let's see. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, again, great storytelling. Mechanics are very simple. Very, very simple. But they did it well. And,
yeah, and I would say I like too that you don't have to fight the walkers either, because I think the most repetitive mechanic on Sandbox is the combat component. It's just button mash. So I think when games go away from that, it's better.
I remember seeing a YouTuber play that game, the Walking Dead single player experience, and the first thing he did was put on his sword and armor. And I was like, oh man, this is exactly the opposite of that. So,
yeah.
All right. And my favorite experience in the Sandbox, I still like it. It's still number one. This is the Haijin Music Palooza. So apparently, I didn't know this, but Haijin is a Chinese artist, a music artist, musician. Again, it's just very colorful. So apparently this is multiplayer. Yeah, which is even more impressive that they made a fun multiplayer experience, because that's almost impossible to do, right? Because you're just limited with the number of mechanics you have. So this person,
which
did
are
the
the mechanics you have with multiplayer? Just so everyone knows the difference between single player and multiplayer. What are the differences in playing a game?
There's just a lot of things you can't do. So in multiplayer, you kind of expect more parkour-based games.
You can't have combat in multiplayer, right? There's no combat component.
Correct. Yeah. So there's no combat here. Again, that makes sense because this is a musician's, there shouldn't be any combat, right? So this first part was extremely, to me, I thought it was too hard. But this person did it on the first try, but it was very hard, to get through that first challenge. So this is a really cool, that guitar parkour game, was very, very cool. It's just done a little differently. You're doing parkour on a guitar. So, and again, each puzzle is not long, so you don't feel it's a grind. Yeah. Yeah, so this is just a very cool, good looking assets. It's not amazing assets, but because it's not amazing. It's just it's enough for the experience. So this is a cool game mechanic I don't see done too often, which is climbing. So they made it work. And then here you're doing a different set of parkour almost. So there's a little bit of combat, which is fine. And the other thing I like about this is kind of like with Sugo, the game, the other one, is that once you finish a quest, you know exactly where to go, and it's not far. And so there's a little maze here. That was interesting. So you're playing a lot of different mini games, which I think is what should have been done for a lot of the social hubs. It's just a lot of these mini games. Like a maze, it's easy to build.
Yeah.
And
it looks like they had a problem solving component to it with the levers and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, so this was cool. I thought the piano keys were a nice touch. Again, it's not hard to make. It's a nice touch. Let's see. Yeah, and then this is the final where you're doing several miniature carnival games. And yeah, this is the final. Like, you go up a balloon, higher balloon, and you kind of be able to see everything around you. Yeah, very nice touch.
Again, this is a 1x1 too, I'm assuming.
I think this is bigger. I think this might have been
Bigger?
a 2x2. Yeah. So
Cool.
yeah, I think everyone did. Like, I think those guys did a great job. They're much better at creating assets, which is fine because they leaned on what they were good at, and that made everything interesting. Some leaned much more on the game design, and not as much on the asset development, and that's great too because they leaned on their strength. So the last one, I think, had the right combination of both. Hey everyone, this is Jack, and thanks for watching this clip from Hello Player One. If you enjoyed it, you can click here to watch another one, or if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here. See you later.